on the pristine shore.
The island of Saipan is known for its beautiful beaches and deep World War II history, but there's a lot more to this island than meets the eye. Part of the Northern Mariana Islands, it's a U.S. territory in the Western Pacific, with a unique blend of Chamorro, Carolinian, Asian, and American influences. On this trip, I discovered some surprising stories, from the rise and fall of its textile industry to how the pandemic reshaped life here and continues to do so today. We just landed on Saipan and drove out of the airport and found a whole bunch of artifacts from World War II. This bunker behind me was actually a magazine. This was a guard post for this much larger. You see the wall over there? That was an ammunition storage depot used by the Japanese. And there's quite a bit of artillery still arrayed around this site that shows how heavily defended it was. And they have these bunkers on all sides of the ammo magazine. You don't have to go far on the island of Saipan to find remnants of the battles of World War II and even before. This particular bunker behind me was an ammunition storage depot for the Japanese up until the United States invaded Saipan in June of 1944. Now, this opening just shows you how much concrete they put into this. And if you see the railing up above, that was so that they could wheel out the very heavy ammunition that was stored in here. The ammunition they put in this, according to the history, is aerial bombs that were used by Japanese fighters as they went to bomb the island of Guam in that terrible attack in 1941. And so many of the bombs came out of here, landed on U.S. troops on the island of Guam when the Japanese took that over. Now, if we go inside here, you can see there are double blast doors. These are very, very heavy doors. That one's, they're both armored. This was also surrounded by a high earthen berm so that they would basically have to make a direct hit on this building to do any damage. And of course, with the reinforced concrete ceiling and the walls are a good, well, at least 4 feet thick, three feet thick, plus all of this. It could be 10 feet thick with earth. It would be pretty hard to destroy, even with what we have today. Now, a bunker buster like the United States has could certainly take this out, no problem. Even a 2,000-pound bunker buster would probably do the job. But for what they had back then, it would have been a lot more difficult to actually get at this.
My name is Jaden Sanchez. I'm actually one of the public information officers for our local mayor's office. I admit, it's not really well known as Hawaii or like other locations, but it's really a hidden gem in the Pacific. We're in American territory, so of course we all speak English, we all drive like how the U.S. drives, we all use U.S. currency. People from overseas pay $1,000, some hundreds of dollars just to come here, what we do every day for free. If I want to go swimming in the afternoon, I can just get my clothes, hop in my car, drive to the beach, swim for a couple hours, hop in my car, go back home, and it wouldn't take me like 10 minutes.
This gun behind me is a great example of one of the most iconic anti-aircraft guns from the Japanese Army from World War II. It's called a Type 96 anti-aircraft gun, 25 millimeter dual cannons right there. And these things were used on ships or on shore. They were mounted all over this island. And this is a very well-preserved example considering it's more than 80 years old. So this map shows how the invasion took place in Saipan. The invasion beaches were down here, and the blue lines are American troops coming ashore and pushing the Japanese further and further to the north. And when you get here July 9th, organized resistance ends. This is where the Suicide Cliffs took place, and we're here now at what they call the last command post. We're gonna go check that out.
The first reason the Americans wanted to capture Saipan and the other Northern Mariana Islands was because of its strategic location. It's located just south of Japan, and if the U.S. could capture these islands, they could use the airfields here to bring the war to Japan, Imperial Japan's doorstep. So that battle was very fierce, cost a lot of lives, including civilian, and yeah, it was a very fierce battle, probably on near the same levels like battles of Iwo Jima, Okinawa, or the Philippines, but still was very pivotal in how the Pacific War turned out.
These cliffs on the northern coast of Saipan were the site of a real tragedy toward the end of World War II. When Saipan was taken by the Americans, there were tens of thousands of Japanese soldiers and civilians. When they realized that the battle was lost, they were told by their commanders and by the emperor himself to throw themselves off these cliffs and commit suicide. And according to some accounts, thousands of people plunged off of these cliffs to their deaths because they believed what they had been told by their leaders in Japan, and that was that the Americans were so brutal that if they were captured, they would be raped and then eaten. And it just shows the power of propaganda even today. This is the old Japanese prison on the island of Saipan, the main town of Garapan. This thing was built in the 1930s and was here, obviously being used as a prison by the Japanese all the way up until the United States took the island over in 1944. There's a lot of mystery surrounding this building because there are rumors, especially on this island, that the female pilot, Amelia Earhart, was actually imprisoned in this jail after she went missing on her 1937 flight around the world. She and her co-pilot, Frank Noonan, disappeared, and there are a lot of secondhand sightings, I guess, of Amelia Earhart and her co-pilot. There was a famous photograph that they claimed was taken on the dock here in Saipan, and it turned out that was actually debunked. That photograph came from a Japanese picture book that was several years older than Amelia Earhart's journey. But nevertheless, a lot of people believe that Amelia Earhart was imprisoned here up until 1944 when the Americans attacked, and that she died in prison here. Now, they also know that there were a couple of other American pilots who were downed that were brought here and kept here, and they died in the bombing in 1944. There's a lot of damage, as you can see. There's bullet holes and shrapnel marks on the walls. There's a big explosion mark on the wall back over here. One of the most fascinating things about this, though, is that there is still graffiti on the walls from the period of World War II. And so that makes this place a real amazing look into what Saipan was like back in World War II. This is an explosion right here. That's from a shell of some sort. There's another here, you can see. And just amazing, just amazing. You know, I learned something very interesting about this island today. Apparently it was a big tourist area sometime up until about 2020 or 2021. And actually some things that happened before that kind of harmed the tourist industry here, because most of the tourists that came to Saipan were from two countries, China and Japan, some from Korea. There was a lot of money here because they had a huge textile industry, and that textile industry was just the driver for all kinds of economic growth. But there was a scandal. It was something about importing Chinese laborers and not paying them and whatever, stuff like that. But whatever it was, it essentially shut down the textile industry on Saipan overnight. And so there were all these restaurants and shopping centers and factories and all these things that just kind of closed all at once. And then the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, all the tourists went away. And this island has not recovered since then. As a matter of fact, right across from me here is the most incredible hotel casino that was built by a Chinese billionaire. She spent $160 million on this incredible building, and it had a soft opening in 2017, and then it just when the pandemic hit, everything stopped, and the company had to declare bankruptcy with more than $160 million in debt. And so now this enormous building, and it goes on another city block that direction, is just sitting here empty. It's closed. And so it just interesting how the pandemic is still causing pain and suffering and hardship really around the world. Obviously, they were trying to save lives. They didn't know beforehand what the second and third order effects would be. But the bottom line is, at least for the people here in Saipan, they have this gigantic gold-plated building as a permanent reminder. Look, there's a limousine here. It's all rusting out. It's probably not moved here from here since 2017 or something. What's that, a $250,000 limousine? Child's play. Nothing to it. Now I'm gonna see if I can sneak into this building, get in here somehow. I'm sure they wouldn't let me in if I asked, but look at that statue. And as it turns out, this is all kind of faux royalty kind of thing. Oh wow, look at that. Amazing. Hi. How long has this thing been closed?
Since 2020.
It closed during the pandemic?
Yes, sir.
And it hasn't opened back. Do they have any plans to open it?
They tried last year with a Japanese investor, but the government shut down their proposal to reopen, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow, look at that. That is a dragon.
What on earth? I've never seen anything that crazy. Oh my. Oh. Oh.
So I would say pre-COVID, like the second largest market would probably have been our China market. But as soon as COVID hit, the flights shut down. We kind of shut down all flights coming from that side of the world. And that's just really had a detrimental effect to how the tourism industry is. Because with our industry, we kind of rely on one market, and if that market goes down, it's not ideal.
Holy cow. Insane. They got slot machines and printers and computers and
Oh yeah. Oh, you're right.
all the
It's just
different.
all their stuff. They were ready to go, weren't they?
Well, so I was fortunate. The security guard is a really nice lady, and she let me in to see inside there. That was incredible. She said this place, they tried to open it back up like last year, and it wouldn't go. I mean, I couldn't get the permits or whatever they needed to do it. And so it's still owned by the same Chinese billionaire, and she's just sitting on it, hoping to do something with it at some point. Obviously, a ton of work has gone into this, but it would now take an incredible amount of more work to get it back up and running, because you can see how overgrown the gardens are. See over there, really overgrown. And she said that those dragon chandeliers are some of the largest chandeliers in the world. Just amazing. And look at that. So I don't know. I was not expecting that from Saipan. I mean, I think the first thing I thought when I saw all these hotels and shopping centers and stuff that have been closed is that it had to be due to the pandemic. And I was right in that, but there was more to it than that because of the textile crash here. And that was something that I would have never seen coming. There's one other thing about the Marianas Islands that I learned, and that's that birthright tourism has been a big thing for many years, especially since the Obama administration. In 2008, there were like 8 babies born to Chinese mothers here in Saipan, or in the Northern Marianas Islands. And by 2018, it was like 600. And that's because the Obama administration lessened the rules, made it easier for Chinese people to come here on vacation. They could get a 45-day visa, and so tons of women were coming here and having their babies. They now have changed that from a 45-day visa to a 14-day visa, and that has cracked down on it quite a bit. But that still is something that is done from time to time because these Chinese women want to have the benefit of in-state tuition when their kids grow up. They want to be able to have their kids sponsor the rest of the family to come, and chain migration to the United States and all the other things that go along with it. So that's another interesting thing about the place where America's day begins, here in the Northern Marianas Islands.
Tonight.